Hey, it's me, Bobbert, and welcome back to my Sakura Wars Surround My Love review, part 2. We continue on to chapter 3 where Shinjo meets Karen at a hot dog stand. Actually, an interesting fact about this game, depending on the trust level, you can meet different kind of characters in each playthrough, and since Karen was the highest on my trust level, I get to meet with her. Next, we get to meet our fourth playable character of the game, Rosita Aries. Rosita is a 11-year-old bounty hunter from Mexico, and she is introduced with this great animated scene that you're watching right now. Now, you're probably asking yourself, since this is a part dating sim, does that mean Rosita is, well, actually, no. Pretty much the relationship between Shinjo and Rosita is more of a brother-sister relationship, and that's all. But I'm not gonna lie, there are some awkward parts, but it's kept to a minimum, and it's not that bad either. After Rosita saves Shin, she wishes to be rewarded with food. Karen then realizes that this is the person Shiny Side is looking for and want her to join the Star Division. Now, before I continue with the story, the one thing I really like about Rosita is her dialogue. She's got the funniest dialogue out of all the members of the group, even Subaru. Now, unfortunately, I can't play any audio so you can hear it, but luckily there's some text that you can read, and I'm going to try to put in as much Rosita dialogue as possible because they're pretty much the best thing about the game. One of the best things. But anyways, back to the story. Rosita is now recruited to the Star Division, and she also is going to be an actress for Sunnyside's theater. Rosita also has a pet weasel named Nikuro. It's pretty much her best friend, but also nicknamed him Plan B, which means if she's out stuck in the desert somewhere and she needs food, she'll consider eating him. This is kind of a running gag of hers. After Rosita finished eating, Sunnyside said that she's going to be in the play very soon. She got excited and said that she would do her best and that she could never ever fail. Shinjo and Karen realized that how much she pretty much got depressed when she said that she can't fail, and thinking the symptom is deeper than that. But for right now, they ignore it. Finally, Rosita made it to the stage and the audience loves her. She shows off her gun skills, and every time the audience will applause, she keeps showing it off more and more. Things looking great, but the problem is, her act ended 30 minutes ago, and Subaru and Karen are mad because she wouldn't leave the stage. After that debacle was solved, Subaru and Karen yelled at Rosita for messing up the performance. After Rosita realized what she has done, she took it pretty bad that she failed. Now we know that she takes failure pretty bad, but the question is why. Sunnyside cheered her up by giving her a Camatron and everything's back to normal. Now I feel like I didn't explain Camatron in the first part, so I'm going to briefly explain it once again. Camatron is pretty much a cell phone. You make phone calls and take pictures at the same time. It's used sometimes in the story mode, but for the most part, it's just mostly an optional tool. Next, you explore Rosita by taking pictures, causing some trouble, and exploring around the town a bit. It's a good way to build up your trust level with your other supporting characters. After exploring the town, you get to see Rosita's house, which is at a warehouse. She lives by herself with no parents. When Shin mentioned about her parents, Rosita said that her mom died a long time ago and her dad was the only one taking care of her. He taught her everything about guns. One day, after a horrible accident that she misstepped at, it was raining really bad and the river started flooding. They both got caught in, but her dad ended up saving her life, but unfortunately the dad ended up disappearing in the river. After that story, Shin decided to stay for dinner with Rosita. Meanwhile, we get to meet our antagonist of the chapter, Doku Robo. Thing is, this part one of the first time you're gonna hear this, but I kind of wish they have English dub names because I'm no good with Japanese name. But anyways, Doku Robo, sorry about that, is pretty much a moron, but a big powerhouse guy, which we're gonna see in a moment. The next day, Ratchet decided that it's best that the crew have a sleepover. This ends with the crew having some slapstick comedy, so it's not really important to the main story. The next day, the crew ate Rosita's favorite food, which is pancake, and Rosita got a lesson in failure could lead to success. Suddenly, trouble is happening in New York, so the crew get ready to battle, and Rosita is off to her first war. The crew meets Doku Robo for the first time, and Doku Robo pretty much says some stupid stuff, and everybody pretty much call him out on it, saying how dumb he is. I really like this bad guy, Doku Robo. This is the first time I ever laughed so hard. I mean, the first two bosses was okay, they were entertaining, but they're like a typical I'm going to destroy New York, but this one provides some entertainment. I mean, it's still kind of the same. He still wanted to destroy New York and steal all its gold, but his stupidity makes it that much memorable. Now, this is the first battle that actually comes in the middle of the story. Unfortunately, this is the only time this happens. Most of the chapter happens at, I mean, most of the battles happen at the end of the chapters. And I kind of wish that Sega or Red Entertainment, whoever's actually developing the game, I'm assuming Red, but I kind of wish they do this a bit more often. It kind of helps break the pace between the story and the battle and makes things more interesting. But again, it's not a bad thing. I really enjoy the story. I just kind of wish that they focus a bit more on the battle. But in this part, all you just have to do is destroy all the generic enemies, and that's about it. Pretty easy, pretty basic, and I'm not going to talk about Rosita's moveset just yet because I'm going to fully explain every single member's moveset in the next battle. After defeating all the minor enemies, they find out that Doku Robo is pretty much indestructible. Shen tried to save her, but Rosita feared that somebody else is going to die because of her fault. Luckily they escaped, but Rosita decided to leave the team and never to be seen again. The next day, Ratchet asks Shen to look for Rosita. This leads into another 3D exploration mode, trying to look for Rosita. After Shinshiro finds Rosita at her house, he took her home and they fed her pancakes. Rosita finally realized that she doesn't have to be alone and that her friends cares about her. Unfortunately, this happy ending has to wait because we got another fight with Doku Robo, the final battle. Now the situation in this battle is that the teams are divided into two. Shinjiro, Rosita on one side and Karen and Subaru on the other side. They're separated by the cannons and the mission to destroy the cannons and attack Double Robo. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing these Japanese names. You can go ahead and call me out on it. I pretty much suck at it, but please bear with me on that. Now the one catch to this thing is that the one team on one side needs to destroy the cannon so the other team can make it to the other side. For example, if Shen and Rosita didn't destroy the cannon and Subaru and Karen try to make it to the next building, they'll end up getting hit. Although I may have briefly mentioned everybody's moves, let me explain each member's moves once again. Very dory. Now Shincho has a short range attack, normal attack, and his super move is a longer range, but it's not really that impressive compared to the others, and it can only hit one enemy at a time. Shinjo's your basic fighter, pretty much. Subaru has the ability to go through enemies and objects, and her attacks are normal range and precision right. It attack more than one enemies at once. Her super attack is a bit shorter than a sort of range than a normal attack, but it's pretty powerful, and again it can attack more than one enemies if positioned correctly. Karen's normal attack has a long range, and it can hit multiple enemies, but they have to be right next to each other. Her super moves, however, can hit multiple enemies and has a very long range that can attack enemies from around her. And our newest member, Rosita, has the longest normal attack range and can attack enemies from on top of a building. So can Karen as well, by the way. Her super move is a shorter range, but it's a very powerful move, and if the enemies are next to each other, she can attack more than one of them. After defeating Doku Robo tank form, you now enter the final battle. Now in this final battle, it also takes place on the ground, so there is no aerial battle. Doku Robo has three weak spots: the two cannon on his shoulder and his middle part. Now Doku Robo has a powerful hammer strike that can knock your allies back. You better be careful not to get too close to the edge of the building because he will knock your team members off. Your team members won't die, but they won't be able to battle for a few turns. If you're able to get close to him or get behind an air vent, you should be fine and shouldn't be able to fall off any buildings. Now this battle is pretty easy as well. I wouldn't say it's the most easiest. I did have some trial and error here and there, but it was mostly because of my stupidity than anything else. But for the most part, I really like the battle, and it kind of changes the pace of everything, especially when the last two battles was against giant robots, but this time it's facing the person himself, which is kind of interesting, but not much better by comparison. The giant robots are better, and you'll definitely see why on the next chapter. But this battle as a whole is pretty nice. After defeating their boss, the team celebrated with pancake that Rosita was hiding. Even though Rosita doesn't have a mom or dad anymore, she has a new family with the Star Division. Chapter 3 story was pretty good. It's you're pretty much your cliche anime using your parents' story, but it was told pretty well. The most memorable part of the story is pretty much Rosita's dialogue. It's it's pretty funny. It's just gotta read some of it or listen to it. It's it's really comedy gold. I wish I could show you every one of them, but unfortunately I can't get all of that. But anyways, Rosita's story was better than the first two story, but still not the best one. The best one is yet to come. Now in the beginning of chapter 4, we're actually introduced to our main protagonist of the chapter, Yume Dono. She is talking to Wamaru, that little rabbit boy that's been hanging around all the other antagonists of the chapters. I didn't mention Wamaru's name before because his name was not mentioned in the other previous chapter, maybe except in chapter 3 somewhere, but to be honest, I kind of forgot if that ever happened, but the rabbit boy's name's Wamaru, just in case you're wondering. Next, we are introduced to our next playable character of the game, Diana Caprice. Now, in this cutscene, we discovered that Diana has incredible pneuma powers that can able to heal birds and can tell when they're gonna die or stay alive. Now, I haven't been mentioning Nubid about that lately, and I will a little bit in the chapter, but for right now, just pretty much think of it like the Force. Later that morning, Shinjiro meets Diana in the park. Now, this isn't the first time they meet. Earlier in the first couple of chapters, they have a couple of conversations, but I didn't really mention it because it wasn't that important to the main story. You could also meet Rosita before her chapter, but unlike Diana, you must actually find Rosita's cutscene in the 3D exploration mode, while Diana's cutscenes are in the main story. Shinjiro invited Diana to the theater for a Shakespeare play since William Shakespeare is Diana's favorite author, but she denied because of her wheelchair and feared that it might be a problem. After that conversation, Shinjiro tried to convince everybody at the theater for Diana to come to the play. Then Commander Sunnyside interrupted, saying that not only she knows Diana, but she's also living at his house. Well, pretty much Diana called Commander Sunnyside Uncle Sunnyside, but technically they're not related. They're like almost family. Sunnyside then tells Shinjiro that he should come by and visit her at his place. He said he can also bring two guests with him. Now, the two guests can determine depending how high the trust level is. And in this playthrough, it'll be Subaru and Rosita. Before going to Sunnyside Place, Rosita decided to give a present to Diana, a live bird. So the three of them went to Diana's place. Everything was going so well until Rosita brought the bird and said, "Let's cook it and eat it." This caused Diana to go into shock because not only she's a vegetarian, but her favorite animal is birds. Rosita decided to let the bird go, but Diana already fainted. After things settled down a bit, Commander Sunnyside mentions not only she has an illness, but she only has a year left to live. The disease that Diana has is not really specified, so it's pretty much up for speculation. Later, Shinjiro hangs out at Diana's backyard, talking to the birds. Suddenly, Shinjiro finds an injured bird. Diana examined it by using an Uber and found out the bird is going to die soon. Shinjiro questioned why she could find that out all by herself, and Diana decided not to hear it, but Shinjiro decided to take the bird anyway without her knowing about it. Shinjiro went back to the theater to talk about Diana to the rest of the crew. Commander Sunnyside recommended that she join the Star Division despite not having any fighting skills and dealing with her disease that's caused her to die in a year. The next day, Shinjiro decided to take Diana around the town so she can cheer up. It's pretty much nothing much happened there. Pretty much the game tells you to take her to quiet spots and increase the trust levels between you and Diana. And plus, there's probably some funny conversation here. There's the other group, but for the most part, nothing really happens. After the tour around the town, Shin and Diana finally went to the theater to watch Hamlet. Things were going very well until Diana heard the line, "to be or not to be." It reminded her of her time and it might be ending pretty soon. After the play, Diana said that she really enjoyed it and so did all the cast members, but Subaru doubts her because she seemed pretty disappointed, especially after she said the line, "to be or not to be." Shinjiro tried to change the subject by talking about the bird that was injured previously. Diana got mad at Shinjiro because she believes that it'd be inhumane to save that bird and give it a false hope. Later, they detected a dark number somewhere in Central Park, but they have no way of locating it, so they asked Diana for help, but she refused to because it would only delay the inevitable, and since we're all gonna die, why bother? Well, this is probably a good time to mention about Nuba, but from what I gather, this is pretty much based on interpretation. But Numa is pretty much the power that each one of these Star Division people has. They use it to power up their mechs, and that would explain why Ratchet Artillery is not in the battlefield anymore because her Numa is gone. Of course, there's Light Numa and Dark Numa, which why I compare it to the Force, and even though I don't really know much about Star Wars, it seems pretty much the same to me. The next morning, the mayor comes by to Sunnyside Place and tells them that they're going to start shooting birds at a certain time and asks Sunnyside not to interfere, which Sunnyside says yes, but Shinjiro is going to find a way to stop that and help convince Diana to help him. After exploring the town at night, Karen is in trouble being attacked by birds. Shen helped her and spotted an insect that was possessing one of the birds. They took a picture of it and sent it to Commander Sunnyside. The next morning, birds from Central Park start attacking people. The little bird that Shinjo was taking care of also flies out. Shinjo followed the bird. He followed the bird all the way back to Diana's place. The little bird helped save Diana from the bugs. Next we treated with the one and only cutscene of this chapter where Diana found hope in that bird because that bird was able to fly again and now she is able to walk. Again, they don't really specify what disease she has, but if I have to make a guess, well, I'm only guessing diabetes because of that one episode of King of the Hill where Bill got pretty much thought he got diabetes and they say his leg won't be able to function again, and then Bill was able to walk back up. But then again, that's just speculation on my part. Next, Shane and Diana went down to the town and stopped the police officer from shooting all the birds. Diana did that by using her number to help the birds get rid of the controls from those insects. Not only Diana found new life, but a new purpose now that she wants to join the Star Division and help take down Yumi Dono and her insects. Alright, now we're in the battle mode. Now in this battle, the objective is to destroy these parts that's contaminating the ground, while at the same time going up in the air and destroying these insect stings that now also create more of those parts that contaminates the ground, but also enemies. This is part of the game where I have to give the developers some credit. You know when some people say when the game gets too repetitive and sometimes they recommend adding like a new game mode to break the pace of the game? Where in this game, they don't really add any new gameplay, it's just add a new objective that makes it feel different, but at the same time keeping the same game mechanics so you don't have to adjust to any new gameplay style. I really have to give Sega or Red Entertainment the credit that they deserve. And this is one thing I really like about this game. They give you new stuff without actually giving you new stuff, if you know what I mean. Okay, now about Diana's attack. Well, Diana's normal attack is pretty basic. It has a little bit longer range than a few others, but her attack power is kind of weaker than the others, at least from what I can observe. And although she can hit multiple enemies, those enemies have to be positioned at a certain place, which is pretty much near impossible. Her super move is actually the only person who can actually heal multiple people. It's pretty useful during your first playthrough, but after you learn the ins and outs, you barely have to use that super move. But for the most part, she's a decent character, but I think she's technically my least favorite. But again, not saying that she's a bad character or anything. Now, what I recommend you doing, if this is your first time playing, is that you send 2 characters on the top to destroy these enemy pods, while you keep 3 characters on the ground to destroy those contaminating pods. I also recommend keeping those 2 in the air together so they don't get lost and they can help each other out with all the enemies. While the three, you can spread them out, but I wouldn't recommend too much. But for the most part, it's pretty easy once you get down the pattern. After that mission, we then meet up with the boss, Yumi Dono. Her voice actress is pretty much over the top in a good way. It's I could tell that she really had fun doing her voice. If you ever get a chance, you get some of her sound clips, and you will just laugh and laugh. But anyways, on to the next mission. The Yumi Dono boss battle is one of the most unique boss battles you're ever going to face in this game. You may notice her chest moves like a roulette wheel. Now her weak spot is in her chest, but it changes every time she spins the wheel. What I recommend doing first is destroying the head of the machine because the head will repel all the doors. And if you get rid of that, you don't have to worry about finding the weak spot again. This is probably when the game gets pretty difficult. I remember during my first playthrough that I lost the battle a couple of times, but once you find a pattern, it should be, I wouldn't say a breeze, but you should be able to beat this game. This is probably one of my favorite boss battles and one of the most memorable ones that I ever faced as well, compared to the other bosses that we're going to see later on. After defeating Yume Dono, all the games rejoice like they usually do, and Diana found a new purpose in life. Diana is now an actress in the theater, and of course is now a member of the Star Division. Chapter 4 story is pretty boring and forgettable, to be honest. It's not really a terrible story, it's just, well, boring. It's cliche and, well, it's pretty much the weakest out of the other chapters, let's put it that way. But the boss battle really makes up for it. I really did the first mission, how you have to go from air to ground. And of course, the boss battle mission is pretty much one of the most challenging boss battles ever. Well, in this game so far. But, anyways, Chapter 4, weak story, great boss battles. Now, although I did promise Chapter 5 in my Part 1, unfortunately, that has to break into Part 3 where I review Chapter 5 and 6, and well, now I have to create a Part 4 for Chapter 7 and 8 due to time constraints at my job. So hopefully you'll be patient for that. But Chapter 5 and 6, pretty much the best story, so get hyped up for that. This is me, Bobbert33, and remember to subscribe to my new YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/user/capital M capital E Bobbert33. The ME stands for medic expression. So I catch you guys later. See ya.